Hello fellow creatures! Let's turn mold, mildew, and lichen into some mostly humanoid designs. This time I don't have a lot of lore like I did with the Minotaur video. Doing designs like these is mostly relaxing for me, honestly, and it's good to have some fun with art in between bigger, quote-unquote more serious or paid work. So I can't really tell you why I chose mold. I get that it's kind of gross and I'm pretty creeped out myself, but at the same time, isn't it oddly fascinating? The inevitable cycle that consumes all that ever lived, turning life into fertile earth to be reborn into life again. Maybe that got a little much, but I hope you can kind of understand what I'm trying to say here. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to explore here, both on a more psychological, philosophical level, and also they can create a lot of interesting textures, from fluffy to slimy, and up close, mold can look unrecognizable, frankly, and that makes it super interesting. That being said, my first attempt was, well, a first attempt. I quite like character design, and I've done it for long enough that I'm well aware the first try isn't always my best, and here it certainly wasn't. What's frustrating is that I can't quite figure out what exactly bugs me about it. Something's definitely off with the colors, and design-wise it's, well, not exciting. If you guys have any ideas or critique about how you would improve this design, I would love it if you let me know, and I'd love to try out what you recommend and advise and see if it helps at all. With that out of the way, let's move on to my next design. I was at a loss and a bit disheartened about my failure with the first one, so I decided to stick to my comfort zone and what I like. And I've held back so far, but it's time you guys know. I freaking love fairies. From the simple designs to more monstery and unusual critters, it doesn't matter. I love them all. I don't know what it is, but fairies just have me in an absolute chokehold. So I decided to do a mold fairy. Instead of sparkly fairy dust, she spreads mold spores. I just had fun and experimented with a bunch of textured brushes to achieve the look of fluffy white-blue mold. So instead of hair, she's just got a ball of fluffy textured mold. Gross. Anyway, I figured that since I was planning to do a light blue for pretty much all of her, orange would be a good contrast, so she's sitting on an orange. This piece just feels like it fell into place, partially because I do this thing where I forget my own art style. Please tell me I'm not alone in this. Suddenly I'll forget how to draw and how I like to draw, and I'll be drawing more realistic proportions and I can't figure out why my sketches look so weird and what's wrong with it until it clicks. Why the hell have I been trying to do semi-realism when I'm most comfortable in more cartoony art styles? So once I snapped back into it, this design and drawing and all the other ones after came a lot easier. That problem I talked about was very present at the start of my next design. I was working on these two simultaneously, so when the realization hit me, I went for those simpler shapes I know and love, and everything felt right again. But one thing stayed the same since the beginning, and it's probably the most eye-catching feature: the double face and head. Usually I get my very best ideas from doing research on whatever topic, object, or animal, plant that I'm inspired by. And to be honest, I didn't do my usual more thorough research, but I knew enough before jumping in and I glanced at Google to confirm. In case you don't know, to put very simply, lichen isn't a single organism. It's a symbiosis between a fungus and algae and or cyanobacteria. So I wanted to show that in my design. Two separate minds working together harmoniously in one body. I think it conveys the idea, and as a bonus makes her look very regal and almost godlike in a way. Slight bit of eldritch, not quite humanist spice on there. I gave her super long hair that looks like that classic branching lichen. Most lichen I've seen ranges from green to bluish, but there's also yellow ones out there, so I included a bit of mustardy yellow for contrast in the color palette. As I talked about, I'm most comfortable with more simple art styles. But I still pay close attention to stuff like anatomy and lighting. With all of these, I wanted to have a clear source of light, as I'm quite guilty of having my light source be inconsistent and coming out of nowhere. Here, it clearly comes from above. And even in my first, in my opinion, not very successful design, I still think the lighting is one of those elements that works pretty well. You can clearly tell where the light source is, and I think that I was able to give these drawings a lot more form than what I can usually manage, so I'm actually quite happy with that. For my last design, I was heavily inspired by this picture. I'm not 100% sure if it's mold or fungi, but it doesn't really matter. I thought it was cool and it instantly gave me a fun idea I wanted to explore. And that was drawing these little mushrooms as bantu knots. I think this hairstyle is really cool looking on its own, so I mostly tried to do it justice, figuring out good spacing and size for the knots or mushrooms and stuff like that. I picked this kinda aloof pose, so I just let her character speak to me, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes a character is just kind of born under your pencil, and it feels like they are like talking to you and telling you what to draw them like. Not literally, and maybe this makes me sound like a crazy person a little bit, but that's what it feels like to me sometimes. Anyway, I decided to just stick to this one picture for inspiration and gave her a sort of cape and sleeves of dry leaves that are also her skin, kind of. Skin clothes. Gross again. Moving on. I had quite a lot of fun texturing those leaves with dark speckles and then sticky mold strings overlaid on top of it. While I was doing those sticky mold strands, I also did her edges while I was at it. It admittedly was my first time drawing them, so they're not perfect, but I think it's a cute detail and I'm happy I included it. I'm also really happy with the smoke. I've been having a lot of fun drawing smoke like that. It's not realistic at all, but I think it looks pretty, so fuck realism, am I right? So, which one was your favorite? And let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. I really love doing character design, but I completely understand that most of my audience is here mainly for my VTuber content, which I don't mind one bit, don't get me wrong. But I like variety, so y'all are gonna have to bear with me jumping from VTuber rigging to character design and fantasy concept art, and right back to VTubers. Lastly, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel for more. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!